we have got someone from the Blacklist support group that's joined us, and we've got Steve Hedley, who's the Assistant General Secretary of the RMT Union, who was spied on by undercover police officers. And Steve, just a couple of minutes, okay, because of time.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, basically, I first came into contact with these spy cops when I was working with a small trade union unit in Hackney called the Colin Road Centre. And we were infiltrated by someone who we now know as Mark Jenner, and he was known as Mark Cassidy at that time. And Mark, we got records of him spying on 300 individuals, trade unionists, involving himself with trade unions, and actually being part of a campaign to try to bring a trade union official to court. He became part of his cover was a rank and file activist, and a very vociferous rank and file activist who tried to bring a member of the UCAT, an officer of UCAT, to court. He also involved himself in I don't know what their brief was, but he was involved himself with all sorts of trade unions, getting on picket lines, and ended up on a delegation on a trade union delegation to Ireland. They observed the peace process. So these people's remit seem to have stretched. The second person was a guy who was known to us as Carlo Neri, and he was like Jenner, involved in infiltrating trade unions. He was a far more dangerous character in a way. He actually tried to entice people into firebombing a charity shop, which he said belonged to a fascist from Italy. And of course, he was told that, trade unions don't do such things, and they go away and wise up. But this was clear, trying to entrap trade unionists, and they firebombing a completely innocent shop on the fallacious testimony that it was owned by an Italian fascist, a guy called Ferrari, who had been involved in the bombings in Italy. And this guy, both of these characters entrapped women into relationships on completely dishonest bases, long-term relationships. And when Carlo actually split up from his girlfriend, who he had entrapped in his way, he claimed to be homeless. And actually, I put him up for about 6 weeks at my house. I don't know if I should bill the Metropolitan Police or the SDS for rent, which I never charged them, because I believed them to be a friend at that time. But this is the sort of tactics that these people had. He came into contact with my family, my children. He used to cook for my children. And this is the kind of tactics they deployed. And I just wonder how many other trade unionists are out there. And we know both these characters, by the way, provided information to the blacklist, the employers, through the blacklist, and that's came to light through Dave Smith's and the blacklist support group's work. We have a clear overlap where employers have been informed by the SDS about the actions of trade unionists, and were blacklisted on that basis. So we've had some compensation for that, some financial compensation, but it's actually it's akin to living. And we've seen programs on the TV recently about the Stasi state in East Germany. We're living in a bit of a Stasi state. When people can infiltrate your house, they can pretend to be your friend, they can pretend to be people's lovers, and then they use that information to get them blacklisted from work. And we've seen people blacklisted that were never allowed to work again. Brian Higgins being a case in point, 30 years on the blacklist. And Brian's only crime, he was never convicted of anything. His only crime was to fight for his fellow workers when he was a trade union rep on building sites.